Today we are in conversation with Anine Pfeiffer, a chartered accountant, and she's worked in major organizations for the past 20 years. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Lots of experience and very passionate about what she does. We're going to be talking about strategy and change management today. Anine, in simplest forms, what are these terms? Can you describe them for me?
Sure. So change management is really about taking a group of people or individuals and moving them from an as-is state to a to-be or an envisaged future state. And the reason for that change could be from a strategic perspective, and that's really how your change management and your strategy into play. So a strategy is really a high-level plan, a vision, a future-focused view of the business. How are you going to keep this business sustainable? And so your strategy is a longer-term view, and your change management is really an initiative that can assist you to get your teams to be aligned to that future view.
Yeah, okay. So I remember once you said to me that you were called in to consult with a company and they had misdiagnosed some issues. I think with 360 we always speak about the importance of diagnosing before you implement any plans. Could you share a bit about that example?
Sure. Well, that's the benefit of being a consultant as well.
Yeah.
Having worked, as you said, I've worked many years in industry as well. When you are almost, if I can use the term, part of the furniture, you see things a certain way and you approach things a certain way. And often it could lead to assumptions as opposed to proper diagnoses. And so in this instance, the example was there was some loss of market share and there were certain assumptions because we know this industry, you know. As a consultant, one comes in, you have a less biased view than management, and you're able to really look and do that
like
root
your
cause
eyes
analysis.
outside of the situation.
Exactly, a fresh perspective,
Yeah.
A different set of eyes
Yeah.
that can really look at the problem and diagnose it. And so a consultant is also able to ask, have you thought about this, and come up with different techniques and tools that perhaps management hasn't thought about. So in that instance, part of the diagnosis was actually doing market research. And what it turned out to be, it wasn't we need to spend more money on marketing, because that's what the client was doing. If we just say it louder, the client will, and in more creative ways it will work, and spend was going there. Whereas actually what the client preference had changed because the market changes.
Yes.
And so that's also, I guess, where a consultant comes in with a fresh perspective and looking at the context, because context can change. And so, in that instance, we just walked a path with management after the diagnosis through the market research and just walked it through with them into implementation.
Outcomes, implementation, good?
Well, implementation was good because it was a journey. It was, of really taking ownership on both ends. It's one thing to create a great strategy and to do the research and have all these great theoretical constructs. It's a very different thing when you put KPIs in place and you walk it through to implementation and you do look backs and then you actually see, has this worked out? So I think it's important that it's not just to do the diagnoses and have great plans on paper. It's very important that you're able to track it all the way through to the right measures and KPIs to be able to see that the impact is actually created at the end.
We spoke about this earlier. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. You saw all of those kind of things, right? Why the tension? Why is there always a tension between culture and strategy?
Well, culture is really the lived experience and the accepted norms within an organization. It gets formed over time and becomes almost the lifeblood, or this is how we do things around here of a business. And so while management might be embarking on a great strategy, something that's innovative, you can't just do that on your own. You need your people to support you, to be aligned to it. And the two together will make that strategy a success in the execution phase. Culture can eat strategy for breakfast if the two are not aligned. So if you have an organization that is perhaps more fear-focused, fear of making a mistake, and you're asking people to go out on a limb with me and be more of a risk taker, the culture will be like, no, but we don't do things like that around here. And you might not reach your growth projections then, and then everybody loses. The business doesn't grow, impacts the employees, etc., etc. So it's very important that the two are actually aligned and that the culture and that people buy into this strategy, because it's not just what management said. It's actually how we do things around here and why we want to do it. So it's equally important that we spoke about change management as well, they're all really interlinked. Because if you have a new initiative and you want to take people along on the journey, they need that sense of belonging. They need to understand, why is this important for us? Why are we doing this? And what's in it for me? Because ultimately, we're talking about humans here too.
Yeah. What I've found is we talk culture about it very loosely. So it's not defined, it's not articulated, but there's also not consistency in the message. So you might have like the management gets away and you put this nice document down, this is our culture, this is our values, but then it's never spoken about again. And I think with culture, the important thing is that consistent message, every email, every conversation, the risk taking. And you want to feel that it's almost like a feeling as well, but you're also articulating it.
Exactly. The consistency it's so critical. It can't also be, this is what we say and do as I say, but not as I do. That's not going to work either. People will see right through that. And so the tone from the top from leadership is also critical. So if leadership is saying, this is our strategy, these are our aspirations, this is why it's important for us, how do we work on this together? Then it's a collaborative culture.
Exactly.
It's important. People's viewpoints are sought. You have climate surveys and we ask, it's an open environment. You could also have the opposite, where it's just do what I tell you to do because I said so.
And here's your budget, just get on with it.
That's where you don't get the discretionary effort. That's where you get the quiet quitting. All these other trends that we're seeing, right? That's when we see that happening because there isn't that sense of belonging. And how do I fit into this bigger picture? So it's all really interrelated.
And Ian, do you think we need to choose between employee well-being and performance? Can you have both?
You should have both. So my view is you really should aim for that.
I don't see it. I know a lot of people in corporate, and I'm always hearing complaints like that they have to choose.
But it's not sustainable. And I think that's the thing. So as a company, listen, we all understand, right? A business is in business.
It needs to be profitable.
Right. It's got a broad range of stakeholders. Obviously, there's the tax man, SARS is also there wanting you to be successful so they can get their fees. But also the employees are another important stakeholder group. So as an important stakeholder group, it's important to understand what are their needs, etc. And that's why I'm saying it should be both. Because for that business to be sustainable in the long run, it's okay to do short-term gains and very short-term thinking where people are working exceptionally long hours, and as we said earlier, this is the way we do things around here, so just do as I say. But often, in my experience, it has led to highest rates of staff turnover, right? Absenteeism, and cultures that are not supportive.
So you may be eating those numbers in the short run.
So you could be hitting those numbers in the short run, absolutely. And you could even be, rewarding people for that. And so that's why it's so important, so what kind of culture are you wanting to have at your place of employment? Do you want to have one where work-life integration is important, where you look at somebody holistically, and you say, we look at Dalton, and he's not just this worker bee here for us, but he also has a family that he sees to, his friends, he has interests, he loves sport, etc., etc. He's a whole person. He's not just here to do this piece. And so when you look at people and you really see them for everything that they bring into the workplace, if you have the should, or as I said, we should have both, we should strive for employee well-being as well. Why that is important is because then you get people bringing their best selves to work. Then you're not getting a piece of Anine or this disgruntled piece that's only going to be working from this time to this time. Then you're getting the Anine that is going to be more creative, that will bring innovative solutions, who's going to be better with my clients. And that just, success breeds success. So yes, in the short run for sure, you can push people, you can do the overtime, you can do all those things, but is it really, if that is what you want to do, I mean, some people do choose to do that. And it's all about what is leadership's vision for the business, and should the vision be, one of longer-term prosperity and success and sustainability, then my recommendation would be, it's got to be both. It's got to be, yes, we're going to be profitable, but through engaging our employees, through making sure that people belong, through all of those great initiatives.
I think that's so important, that 360 approach in dealing with the person.
It's got to be holistic.
You get the best out of them that way. We had an example actually has a few young graduates joining us. And I was so fascinated that we had to tell them to stop working. And the reason, I'll never forget this team of staff that we have, this team of youngsters, and they were working on a Friday night, and I could see some of the chats going on. And I thought to myself, no, this is not right. This is not what we're trying to push. But the reality is they were so engaged because we were caring about them holistically. And they were pushing out some serious numbers. And we actually had to say to them, guys, pull back, stop.
But that's great. So leadership was also saying, we appreciate your effort.
We appreciate it, yes.
But we want you to be as excited in 12 months' time.
Exactly.
So,
fresh out of varsity, it's okay.
Right? So it's also about saying we care about you. And this is a space where we care about your well-being as well, and not just the bottom line.
And yeah, that was fascinating. Final words for the employers out there?
Sure. So we've shared so much today, and for me what really stands out is that the tone from the top is so important. Be consistent in how you address staff, in how you promote culture and how you build culture within your spaces, so that while one has great strategic intents and great corporate strategies, it's so important to build a culture that supports it and enables an enabling environment that will allow the business to be successful well into the future.
Looking forward to seeing what you can do for our clients. And remember, human capital is your greatest asset. Spend time and money on them, and you will reach all your strategic objectives and ultimately your vision. So thank you for joining us again today. And remember, we are relational and not transactional. And we look forward to working with you.